Hi.
Hi, how are you?
We made it. Nick of time.
We made it.
Yeah.
Nick of time. We've been down here in the studio for over a half hour.
Yeah, but I haven't been ready internally.
I
So
know.
now I am. Nick of time.
I think both of us just are feeling off today. I don't know
What's
if
with
there's, I don't know. I think there's something going on in the air. I don't know if it's attenuation towers turned on, if it's 5G, if it's all the chemtrails happening and the, what do you call it? The radio waves look in the sky. A couple times we've gone out for our walks in the evening, and all you see are the ripples in the sky.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a EMF thing.
It's messing with my body energy and chemistry, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not that life is happening around us, and it's not that like life seems to be exploding everywhere around us and attacks in all different directions coming at us. It's not that.
No, it's just so many different things going on. I wouldn't say attacks. It's just, fighting the globalists is,
It's hard work. It's exhausting and draining, mentally, emotionally draining.
You cut a head off the Hydra and like two more grow back. So, I mean, you know how it is.
Senior Canucks in here talking about Revelations chapter 13, verse 16 to 17, and the penalty for taking the mark of the beast, Revelations chapter 14, verses 9 and 10.
Right.
And I'm going, oh my gosh, maybe that's what it is. You
took the mark of the beast?
I did not take the mark.
I think this is something we should have discussed. I feel like that's a big purchase item.
Yeah, no, I did not.
Okay.
But I'm just thinking, when you're on the right track, spiritually speaking, the evilness in the world comes at you tenfold when you're over the mark. And I feel like we are over the mark, and things are coming at us right, left, and center. It's like, oh, I need to duck. And I'm getting exhausted from the ducking.
Yeah.
Not that I want to get hit in the face by any means, but I'm just
spiritual Tybo. That's what you need to take.
Spiritual. I like that. Spiritual Tybo. I like that.
Is it? Yeah. So anyway, we have a mishmash show for you tonight. It's just a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little potpourri here and there. We don't have anywhere to start, nowhere to end. We're just gonna throw stuff up there and toss it out there. This is in case you're new to our show. This is an in case you missed it show. So stuff that we pick up that may not have been on the radar elsewhere, because we don't do clickbait, we don't do the obvious stuff, and we just kind of keep apprised of what the globalists are doing. Those pesky globalists, they're like cockroaches. You put a shine light on them and then they go somewhere else. You got to shine a light on that, and they just go away already. Anyway. Yeah. So I don't know. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with, we've got some wins of the week, but let's end the show with wins of the week. Let's end on a good note. Okay. Let's start with Bill Maher, because you know what? When this all started 4 years ago, that I became aware of it 4 years ago. I know some people have been in this gamut in this game show for like
much
20
longer.
Plus years.
Yeah, like right on it when Agenda 21 came out. Some of us were on that right off the bat. They're going to take your property, and everybody said you're crazy.
Yeah. I wasn't one of the ones that said you're crazy. I was just busy, playing broom ball and soccer and on living the high life and selling real estate and being a full-time mom. That's what I was busy doing up. But 4 years ago, it came, smucked me right smack dab in the face, and I did a very, very quick catch up.
That's right. But Bill, hey, Luann. How's it going?
Hey, Luann. Dash out. Lovely to see your names up there.
And dash out.
Sup all. But Bill,
so can pull off the urban street thing. Okay.
But Bill Maher, at the beginning of all this, he was like on the other side. He was blue pilling all the way, and his eyes. Sometimes he comes out and he shocks the crap out of me with the stuff that he says. And I'm like, oh, maybe he is aware. He's just trying to keep his job most days. But on this day, he was like, F it. I'm going to say it. So let's play Bill Maher because it's fun.
Okay.
Now enjoy this fun photo collage of some of your favorite stars and politicians who speak about the need to reduce our carbon footprint, but who are always on private planes. That's right, all of them. If you don't see a celebrity's picture here, it's because we weren't allowed to use it. Or their series got canceled. But all the environmentalists of Hollywood and Washington do it. Their position on climate change is, we must do more to stop pouring carbon into the air, except for me when I want to go somewhere and then I take a private jet.
So true. So true.
Did
It's
you
funny
know-
because it's true.
It is fun. Did you notice the moving map of jets flying away from the Super Bowl game?
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, when I saw that, I was like, oh, we got to play this.
Been there. We just, we saw it firsthand, the ridiculousness of, these climate change activists coming in on their private planes and getting their limos with their whatever. We did a whole thing on that.
I'd be curious to know what they thought about this, because Joe Biden wasn't there. So they can't use the excuse, well, we have to keep Biden safe, don't we?
Yeah, that's
So-
true. Well, I don't know, yeah, well, maybe Biden was there. Would he know? Would he even know? I don't know.
No.
Yeah, that was me up on stage with Usher. Yeah. It's funny because
go for it. Sorry, I cut you off.
yes.
I was going to talk about Usher, but we
Okay,
discovered-
well, yeah, but it's funny because I'm on Twitter a lot, right? And they're all going, Trump has dementia, Trump has aphasia, Trump has frontal lobe damage, and every time I'm just like, great, now do Biden. And nobody's like, that's the big unspoken secret. You know who Rob Reiner, Meathead from All in the Family.
Oh yeah,
Right?
yeah.
He is so anti-Trump and so pro-Biden, and every time he puts them up, I'll jibe him. I'm like, who's running your country right now, Rob? And I didn't expect an answer, but so far nobody has answered that question. And that's the unspoken thing, like, who's running your country right now? We all know because Trump said it. Obama, and now Trump has dementia because he can't even remember that it's
who the president is.
Yeah, he called it straight out. Oh, you can remember it's Biden. It's not Biden.
It's not Biden, it's Obama. You just don't know it yet. And we saw some conspiracy guesswork about, everybody wants to jump in on that Super Bowl show and say, oh, did you see this symbolism and that symbolism, blah, blah, blah. And the latest I heard, because we looked and we went, oh, there's a lot of blue beam.
Nice, Hashem.
I call him Obama. I love it. And so we saw blue beam stuff. So we're like, oh, they're getting ready for alien invasion stuff and blue beam, Project Blue Beam and what have you, which I believe we covered on this show way
Big
back
Mike.
when. But the newest one I heard was, oh, that wasn't Usher. That was Usher's clone. Did you see go ahead.
It was Michael Jackson.
Yeah, it was Michael
in an Usher costume.
It was Michael Jackson in an Usher costume. Did you see when he turned around and you could see his, what they call it, his unitard or whatever, split open, the seam of it split open. He had to rush off and cover up. So I'm like, I didn't see that. So Chris and I pulled up YouTube and we rewatched it. Okay. Now, a lot of you haven't been on stage or in theater productions. So you probably don't know this. But they tape mics and wires all up your back to try and hide them. And when you're a performer, so you're doing a musical, you've got tape, you've got wires coming up, and that's so that you can hear yourself and you can hear what's going on and hear the monitors. And when he turned, and it might have been when he took his t-shirt off because he was chestless, or bare-chested. He wasn't chestless. He was bare-chested. But when he turned around, if you don't know what you're looking at, I could see how your conspiracy mind might go to, oh my gosh, it's Michael Jackson in an Usher clone unitard. No. It was all the wires and the tape that they put on you.
Yeah.
And it's all skin-colored tape.
Maybe it was hiding the zipper.
But you could see clearly that his thing had come unattached and was hanging, and the tape was starting to peel because he was sweating profusely, which actually happens. Many productions that we've been in, We've had to retape in the middle of a production because you're sweating so bad or the lights are so hot that the tape starts to peel away. That's all it was. Tape hiding wires. So, put your little conspiracy minds to rest. That's what was going on. So
there's no lip sync in here. This is straight out of our mouths. We don't need a safety net.
No.
Yeah,
we probably need one sometimes, though.
I mean, think of that. It's Michael Jackson in an usher suit. Michael Jackson, right? So let's forget the fact. Okay, so we got to bring him back to life.
Yes.
We have to.
How many times has Elvis been brought back to life? Come on now.
Who? Elvis?
Elvis.
No, Elvis, he's not dead. He went home a long time ago. And so why put Michael Jackson in there? Because, I mean, if he's alive, the man's old now.
Yeah, he's not moving and jumping like Usher was.
Even if you buy into the Dave thing, why would they put Michael Jackson in an Usher suit?
Yeah. Crazy. Anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up because it was funny. Anyway.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah. So that is Bill Maher. Like I said, we have no plan here today.
Bill Maher and climate change. I'm trying to see what else we have. So that it makes sense.
Okay. So, this is we're banking, I think, is going to be our biggest thing going forward.
100%
We're
banking.
always going to have something on banking now. And
when I talk to my conservative friends right here, they always tell me that the problem is high taxes.
So this is the president of El Salvador.
Yes,
and he's
incredible
making
speech
a lot
at
of waves
CPAC
right now. Yeah,
but they're wrong. Of course, high taxes are extremely high here in the United States. I give you that. You're right in that. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is not the high taxes themselves, but the fact that they are not even really funding the government. Not even those high taxes, higher than a lot of places in the world, not even those taxes are really funding the government. So who's financing the government? Government is financed by treasury bonds, paper. And who buys the treasury bonds? Mostly the Fed. And how does the Fed buy them? By printing money. But what backing does the Fed have for that money being printed? The treasury bonds themselves. So basically, you finance the government by printing money out of thin air.
It's the money.
Someone could ask, well, so if the government can print unlimited amounts of money out of thin air, why do they collect taxes? I mean, in theory, it would make sense, right? If they can print unlimited amounts of money, why would they need taxes for? The answer is simple, but it's very shocking. The real problem is that you pay high taxes only to uphold the illusion that you are funding the government, which you are not. It's shocking, but it's true. The government is funded by money printing, paper backed with paper, a bubble that will inevitably burst. The situation is even worse than it seems, because if most Americans and the rest of the world were to become aware of this farce, confidence in your currency would be lost, the dollar would fall, and the Western civilization with it. If the next president of the United States doesn't make the necessary policies and structural changes, sooner or later that bubble will burst. There's still time. You don't have to make the same mistakes we did in the 60s and the 70s.
Look at that. A president actually speaking truth for a change. I was waiting for him to go forward into not just the illusion that you're funding your government, but the reality that you're actually funding money laundering.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, we all know they print money out of thin air. So, I mean, it's a very basic question. We haven't ever gone past that. We all know they do it. We all know that the American dollar is based on basically their ability to force other countries to use their dollar.
Exactly.
And that's a scary thing with the BRICS coming out. But now, he's right. If they can print money out of thin air and they can finance themselves, basically it's a giant money grab from the people to keep the people under control, right? If they don't have any money, then they can't fight for themselves now, can they?
Exactly. And then the other question is, why are we so much in debt, and why are we paying interest on this money that they're spending when they could just print more if they were the ones printing the money?
Because the T-bills come with interest, and so you are supposed to pay back that interest, but they only pay a portion of the interest, so they're intentionally going deeper and deeper into debt,
Breaking the system.
Yeah.
And also our government's not the one actually printing the money.
They aren't. Oh, who's printing our money?
Maybe some private organizations that own the Fed.
Well, the Bank of Canada prints our money, and they're technically federally owned, but they're technically also
Privately owned.
Our money comes with interest, is printed with interest when we're not doing it ourselves. So it just comes with a fee. Love that stuff.
Is it our this here guy down in the corner after this? Because he's talking about, wasn't he talking about money too?
It kind of goes with that, yeah.
Never going to pay its debts. It doesn't have to. Its debts are in its own currency. We can simply print it. The African debt is not in its currency. The African debt is in U.S. dollars. Africa has to earn the U.S. dollars, and the only way it can earn the U.S. dollars is not to be assassinated for growing its own food and becoming independent and doing something that the United States does not like. The principle underlying the foundation of the World Bank is that no country should grow its own food. Africa and the Third World should only grow export crops. To export, in order to have an oversupply of cocoa and other tropical raw materials, to keep down the price, they must buy their grain from the United States or Europe, so that if they do something that we don't like, we can do what America tried to do to China in the 60s. We can sanction them. We can say, we're going to starve you. We're going to not export any grain to you. So owing their foreign debt in dollars means that they have to somehow sell something that the United States wants, not what they want. I think the most evil organizations in the world today are the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund.
Wow.
I agree.
We've been preaching that for I don't know how long, right?
Forever. But you notice, so we had the president from El Salvador mention the 60s and 70s. This gentleman also mentioned the 60s. So I thought that was really interesting about the two. And this gentleman also said they print money out of thin air, and the U.S. is in control of the dollar, the international trading dollar, which it gives them a crap ton of power across the world.
Yes.
And so we've got now BRICS coming in, who is now making agreements within each other. Oh, we had a slide on that. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I
keep
forgot
going.
because all I could see is the
Just
videos.
backing you up there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we've got BRICS coming in, who is trying to take that power away from the U.S. because everybody's tired of the U.S. putting sanctions on them for when they do something they don't like, or when they actually try to do something good for their own people. And the U.S. is like, yeah, I don't think so. That's no good for Americans. We're going to slap you with sanctions. So now BRICS is coming together, and they're making all of these agreements and treaties within each other, saying, you know what, we agree to trade in your dollar and in your dollar and in your dollar. I think there's like 3 or 4 different dollars now that the countries in the BRICS have now agreed to use instead of the American dollar, which is now causing massive issues for the US.
Right.
And they are broke, and their dollar is basically worth Zero.
Well, of course, but at least they have gold. We don't have gold.
True.
They have gold. But look at the first line here, just a little clue. Russia's finance ministry, along with the Central Bank of Russia, will propose several new financial initiatives to BRICS. So they're basically, it looks like they're making the power play against the states.
Exactly.
And if you believe certain factions, then it's really the U.S. and Russia that's been at war since 2014, using Ukraine as a Cold War proxy. And that's the reason they gave up Afghanistan, because that was no longer a needed Cold War for them. So they moved into the Ukraine. So if you believe some people, then we've just been at war with Russia for the longest time.
Under the guise of Ukraine.
Right. And so, it's funny when we go to war, everybody's like, it's about oil. It's always been about oil. It's not. It's never been about oil. It's always been about the U.S. currency. Muammar Gaddafi, remember him?
Yeah.
Killed him. Why?
Because he didn't want to use the U.S. dollar.
He's
He
demanding
was
gold.
challenging it.
He was
Yep.
he was building his gold supply and wouldn't use wouldn't take the U.S. dollar. Saddam Hussein, remember him?
Yep.
Yeah. He got killed. Why?
Didn't want to use the U.S. dollar anymore.
Nope, he was demanding gold for his oil. So it's always been about maintaining the U.S. dollar, because there is no greater wealth than being able to print your own money without any accountability whatsoever. And that's how they've been doing that forever. And that's how they've amassed their wealth, right?
And we also know those who own the money system run the world. Those who own the food system really run the world.
I thought it was girls who
Girls
run the world.
Girls do run the world. We want to run the world.
You want to, yeah.
We want to run the world.
Yeah.
But we're not that evil and sadistic. Well, we don't have that makeup in us. We're nurturers. We're protectors. We're that.
Talked to virtually every girl I dated in high school. Anyway.
But yeah, so food supply, whoever owns the food supply runs your country.
Yeah.
Whoever runs the money or owns the money runs the continents, and whoever owns the energy owns the world. So we've now discovered that the US owned the dollar, and now there's a coup happening to get rid of that, because the US took the power to their head, or the power went to their head, and they decided to start smacking everybody down who were doing stuff that they didn't like, or trying to infiltrate or stop things that the US were doing. So the US is now putting in sanctions. So guess what? People are saying, you know what? We don't need your dollar. And we know that Basel IV is coming in, and we know that you guys work on fractional banking. Well, we're going to take it back to asset-backed banking, and have that asset-backed banking backed by an actual thing that's real, such as gold,
Like an asset.
not paper, like Mr. El Salvador president said.
Right. Yeah. So it's tricky times for the U.S. And subsequently Canada, because, like sharks in the water, BRICS smells blood. And the States has been losing their grip for quite a while. So this is bad. Like, save your bread. Yeah, that's my big advice for you today.
Oh, and before you put BRICS away, because it didn't overly go into it, BRICS is now looking at creating a new digital payment platform.
Right. Yeah.
Because we know that the central bank digital currency is realistically the end game for all of these guys. No matter what political party you belong to, they all want a central bank digital currency. And now Russia has jumped into the game to make them the leaders of it versus America's.
Doesn't this scream theater to you?
Yes.
I mean, we know central bank, we know the IMF, the BIS are going for a universal dollar.
The unicoin.
Then we've got this BRICS is going to take over the US and whatnot, but they're still just going to do a CBDC based digital currency. So is it just theater? Is it just war to bring us to the place where we're supposed to be?
Maybe, but I guess the
in
race
their
is
mind,
on.
supposed to be. I mean, we're not supposed to be there, but
No, but I guess the race is on. Is it going to be the U.S. dictating the central bank digital currency,
No.
or is it going to be Russia or the BRICS
no,
amalgamation dictating the?
no.
What's it going to be, Chris?
Well, let me give you a clue. So the UN advances a plan to link digital ID to bank accounts. And don't forget the Unicoin. Don't forget the WorldCoin.
Unicoin,
Don't forget
yep.
the SDR or XDR, based on the Ripple engine built by Deloitte. The unelected United Nations is advancing the plans to usher in digital ID for the general public that will be linked to individuals' bank accounts. So there you go. It's always been the BIS, IMF, the UN, whatever.
You got it. In the UK, the concept seems to be taken as normal behavior as the government joins forces with big tech companies to test out the UN's digital plans on the British public. So it looks like the British public, the UK, will be the first ones to get the CBDC, all based on your digital ID compliments of the United Nations.
Right. So it talks a little bit about the Home Secretary going to talk about them and to big tech companies. I'm sure we've mentioned it. Here's a clue. Google and all the big tech companies, they're all going to be involved they're going to be the new banks. Basically, they're going to help be the new banks. I'm sure we've mentioned this, but Rogers has been quietly setting up a banking system. You know, Rogers that just went out, just had another outage, another outage.
But wait a minute, it wasn't just Rogers, because it wasn't just in Ontario.
Okay.
It was Canada-wide.
Yeah.
Because I put a thing out there saying, "Hey, who's lost all their power?" Oh my gosh, I'm having a bad hair issue day. But I also got reports all the way from the U.S. that they were all out as well. And there was a gentleman who lives by one of the military bases down in the U.S. I think it was like southern U.S., but don't quote me on that. And
so you said southern U.S.?
Yes. So
said Jody.
Not only did they lose everything internet based, basically, but they also had the emergency broadcasting system being tested on all their radio stations, and the emergency alarms at the military base were going off as he was doing his live. So, you know, we know, seeing as it was definitely North America wide, I don't know if it hit every other country at the same time, but you know, Chris just said it's all going to be run by the Internet of Things and Google and Rogers and all of these main players in the telecommunications, who we know, if you break down their hierarchy of their stockholders, shareholders, who actually owns them all. Was this the test to see if they were ready to go live, maybe March 11th?
Wow, March 11th. That sounds like a random out of nowhere date for no reason.
Yeah, it's a date we keep seeing everywhere lately.
Yeah, still waiting on Taiwan. We called it.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, Instagram was down. A whole bunch of other apps were down. But that also goes back to
everything was down. Even the banks were down. So yeah, everything was down.
So just touching back on Rogers, big changes are happening. Maybe if you watched our Not So Great Reset show, that tells you what's coming. It's funny too, because I put it out on Substack, our amazing Substack, and I kind of recapped the Not So Great Reset show.
Yeah.
And every time we bring up CSRQ, most times people will add to what we're saying, and they'll give us more tips and sort of flesh out some of the stuff we say. We don't really get too many complaints. That's not a challenge. That's not a like bring it on.
I think it means we're doing good work, because there's very little that people can challenge us on.
Right. But people don't try to call BS because they know we know our stuff, right? Every time CSRQ, no matter where we put it up, they will.
Oh, they jump all over us.
And I know, tells me it's kind of like over the target there.
If you believe in the Q phenomenon, I believe a lot of that is Nasara Gassara that they talk about. And I know people who are Nasara Gassara, and then I know people who are CSRQ. If you listen to a lot of the economists, the Forbes, the Solari, the Economist, a lot of them are talking more CSRQ stuff than they are Nasara Gassara. They both systems agree everything's going to go dark. And everybody's going to have zero access to their money. And then Monday morning, welcome to the next reset. Yeah. So, Adam says it's on the satanic calendar, March 11th. It's basically their Christmas. Well, it might be their Christmas this year. That's for sure. I don't want it to be mine.
Is it? Yeah, well, it's something to miss. Anyway,
Something this.
yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think you're allowed to bring up Jesus in the Satan household.
Mm-mm.
So a lot of changes, and March 11th is prominent, but we have learned long ago not to predict dates because it just never pans out. So we just leave that alone. But March 11th seems odd. So again, we've mentioned it before. Get your money out of your bank.
Yes.
Prepare for like a month before things get reset. In the good way or the bad way. And the way we say it is, Nasera Gesera, if that's the way it is, purely utopia, then who cares? We don't have to worry about that. It'll happen anyway, and it'll happen. If it's not, then we got to keep fighting. Take it to the bank.
If it's Nasera Gesera, you might want to invest in some currencies that, my understanding of Nasera Gesera is it's going to pay out 1 for 1. $1 equals $1. So whatever that piece of paper says, the bearer of this note is entitled to 20 million, 20,000, whatever. We know Canadian dollar, we can buy that note for a couple dollars. And according to that note, it's worth $10,000. Well, if Nasera Gesera is true, then for a small little investment, you might be able to make yourself some real decent cash when this lights up again.
Right.
Maybe.
Well, and if not, you can always go live large in Lithuania. Okay, so Dog King. I like this. You brought this up, and I have never heard this before, but you brought this up. Why don't you read it?
Yeah, do you know what a Dog King is? They have popped up. I wanted to say pooped up. They have popped up all across the world. The Dog King is a Scandinavian term that has gained more relevance to describe our current leadership or lack of. It gets its origins from the Swedish king Edglis in the 6th century. He sends a small dog to the Danes to take as their king to humiliate the Danish people. Have you looked at the current crop of leadership of once great and respected countries like Canada, US, and you can add to the list? The purpose of a dog king is to be appointed as the leader of a nation, is to break the will of its people, turning them into demoralized subjects. Psychologically, it's brilliant. If the people know that their leaders are idiots and they still continue to follow their directives, that makes the people of these nations lose their self-respect, pride, and patriotism. Because if you listen and follow an idiot, then who is the bigger idiot? I had never heard this expression before, but when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, we need to bring this to our show, because how many other people have heard of the Dog King? And it was a real philosophy, a real thing that was done. And look where we're at now.
Yeah, we're all blindly following an idiot. Or are we blindly?
We're not blindly following an idiot, but a crap ton of people are. So again, who are the bigger idiots?
Well, still us, but we could always take your money out of the bank, stop using cards, and stop paying your taxes. We could do that as a nation collectively. Speaking of which, here's a great example of exactly what this is talking about.
On June 2nd, the House of Commons issued an order for unredacted documents pertaining to the transfer of viruses from the National Microbiology Lab, or NML. The Government of Canada recognizes that the oversight provided by Parliament is essential to a well-functioning government. We respect the need for transparency and the importance of accountability before Canadians. However, in this particular case, the information requested has both privacy and national security implications.
And I quote, the information appears to be mostly about protecting the organization from embarrassment for failures in policy and implementation, not legitimate national security concerns, and its release is essential to hold the government to account.
International collaboration is an essential part of this scientific work.
Investigators assess that Dr. Chu communicated with foreign entities during her trips to China. The evidence obtained from interviews and from information collected from the electronic content of her devices reveal that this is indeed the case. As a subject matter expert with access to sensitive information and dangerous materials, Dr. Chu presents a realistic and credible threat to Canada's economic security when conducting repeated and clandestine meetings with foreign entities.
And throughout the pandemic, the NML has worked with its partners, both inside and outside of Canada, to combat this disease.
Dr. Chu conducted joint research with the Major General Chen Wei of the People's Liberation Army, is a noted top virologist at the Academy of Military Medical Sciences, and is China's chief biological defense expert engaged in research related to biosafety, biodefense, and bioterrorism.
And further, as I had noted previously in the House, there is no connection between the transfer of viruses cited in the order and the subsequent departure of these employees, and there is no link to COVID-19.
But the choice to weaponize national security in a way that is rife with conspiracy theories and partisan attacks is a choice that I don't think is worthy of the kind of responsible leadership that Canadians deserve.
Good one.
Speaking of dog kings.
Oh, so good. That's such an endless well for him, hey? But what an amazing point that we're making. Like, are they both on the same side? And that's kind of what we've been saying all along. So we all know that if the Conservatives were involved in high treason, they would admit it for sure, wouldn't they?
Oh, of course
Absolutely, they would. Yeah.
They've had zero scandals that they've had to admit to over the years. Zero.
Because the right is right and whatever's left is wrong.
That's right. And they're not the ones that signed us into the UN and the Paris Accord and the Agenda 21.
You
That
might want
wasn't
to
them.
research Harper a little deeper. Yeah.
And Mulrooney.
Oh, you're being sarcastic. Yeah.
I'm
so-
being very sarcastic.
Right.
But that kind of leads us into, are we going to Hegelian dialects?
Yeah, the Hegelian dialect. This is now, was this a cop?
Yes.
Didn't he
This gentleman is actually part of the Police on Guard
Yeah.
organization. And I don't know if he's an active police officer anymore, or if he quit when the shots came out. I'm not 100% sure. But he puts out some really great information. And just by chance, because today was a weird night for us, and I thought, let's educate our people. We showed you what Dog King was, because I had never heard of that. And this was something else I had never heard of, Hegelian dialect. So we thought, what better show than this?
Right.
And it kind of flows with what we're talking about
Yeah,
tonight.
I remember this guy from Alberta. He spoke out in his uniform and got in big trouble for it. This was a year and a half ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is Hegelian dialect, and we'll try and help break that down. Oh, look at that.
There's
I wonder if people
There you
know what the Hegelian dialectic is. The Hegelian dialectic is basically a means to accomplish an end by exacerbating things to the point that they get really bad, so that we become accepting of the end result they always intended us to have and they finish. So I'll give you an example, and I'll give you their methodology and why we need to stop arguing and fighting with each other and looking at each other as if we are each other's enemies, because at the end of the day, we are not each other's enemies. We do have an enemy, but it's not each other. And I'll explain it to you very simply. Politics, left and right, is nothing more than a ruse. It's a means to divide us so that we can say, my party is better than your party, and you don't know what you're talking about, and your leader's corrupt, and mine's not. Meanwhile, they all are. They're all corrupt. And they use things like division as a tactic to keep us constantly feuding with one another. And back and forth they go. They get their terms, and throughout their terms, they continue to move us further down the line of tyranny and oligarchy. If you look at what is going on throughout Canada right now, think of how many divisive wedge issues have been used over the course of the last 8 years and before that. It's not just a Justin Trudeau thing. It preceded Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau was just the most polarizing that we've seen probably in our lifetimes, because he's an absolute silver spoon-fed, feckless, fancy sock-wearing, corrupt dirtbag, trust fund baby.
Forgot
Now that
NPL
little
for
rant
baby.
is over, here's the reality. If you look at what it is that he's doing and what he's being used for, he's being used to exacerbate things, to make us all so incredibly pissed off. So that in the end, in comes the next guy who's the other side of the coin, the other colored party, and he will fix the majority of the issues. But at the end of the day, the thing that they wanted us to be, comfortable with will be what they accomplish, and that will be the digital ID.
Correct.
They're talking about all these insane taxes, and they have brought about all these insane taxes and things involving our children that are absolutely abhorrent and deplorable. And they do all these things in a way to get us all riled up and pissed off. So we want this corrupt guy out of office yesterday. And in comes a new guy, somewhat same as the old guy, but wearing a different face, a different color, and a different approach. And he'll come in and say, axe the tax. He'll come in and say, we're going to fix this issue when it comes to gender ideology and sexualizing our children. He's going to expose corruption in the government. But all the while, he is bringing about the digital ID. He's doing it as we speak. How do I know this? Because I called my MP to find out where they stand on it. And my MP, Ben Lobb, Huron County, let me know that he's been tasked with implementing it when they take office. And they've been working on it behind the scenes. He told me this openly. They are working on the digital ID openly, and that's the MP, Huron County, Ben Lobb, to work on the digital ID. So the Hegelian dialectic, make things incredibly bad, so that at the end of the day, when they get rid of the guy responsible, what do? They get rid of all that is bad, except for the one thing they always wanted us to be accepting of in the finish. Because if you would have told me 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that they're going to track and trace us like basically having an ankle bracelet on us 24/7, and we can't do any commerce or engage in anything without having the digital ID, and everything will be on that, and basically mirroring the social credit score of a certain country that is outright communist, I'd have told you that there's no way the people will accept it. There's no way that will go through. But right now, we are mere moments away from an election. We are mere moments away from a new leader taking office that has already said he's going to do this, has already tasked his MPs with implementing it, and the people will gladly take it because, hey, at least they're not doing this to my children and they're not taking that from my bank account, and I'll be able to afford to live in my house. Because right now, all of those things that are going on are happening, and we want it to go away so badly that we'll accept an essential noose placed around our neck. That's the Hegelian dialectic. That's the methodology they've always used and are using still. And we are buying into it and feuding with each other. We have a problem. We have an enemy. It's not each other.
Well, he's correct about so much of that. We looked into the Hegelian dialect, or dialectic.
Yeah, you're right.
And very confusing. You get a different answer every time you go to a different site to try and learn what it is. Basically, it is two opposing forces, philosophical forces working together from different ends to achieve a common goal. But Karl Marx saw it and saw opportunity in that and used it more as the Machiavellian portion of that, and turned it into division and not working together, but using two factions while behind the scenes they're working on the same goal.
Taking a thesis and an antithesis to get to your synthesis. I'm going to say the word wrong. Synthesis. Synthesis.
I love you going down that road. You just read that like an hour ago.
I did, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it makes sense." Thesis,
Yeah.
antithesis, all to get to the synthesis. It's positive versus negative to get to the same result. And Karl Marx has bastardized it. It used to be really just about open debate, taking two different ideas and debating it until you came to some sort of resolution or compromise. But Karl Marx bastardized it.
Sure. I mean, everybody attributes this to Marxists, but really, before Karl Marx, there was Abraham Lincoln. Now, he didn't employ it, but he said, a house divided upon itself is can't fall. And then united we stand, divided we fall. And then before that was Machiavelli, but it's actually biblical. It's a biblical concept, right? That when a house is divided against itself, the house cannot stand. So, I mean, it's an age-old thing where some people have just learned how to exploit it a little bit better than just point it out.
Than not. But there was something else that he brought up there.
Mhm.
April 1st is a big day coming up. April 1st, the next layer of the carbon tax comes in. It increases, I believe, to 17 or 23%, something like that. So that's bad news for us. For those of you who like to indulge in some spirited drinks, there's additional tax being added to that. So that's going up.
Mhm.
So the ability to heat your house and feed your family and have some celebratory drinks, all of those prices are going up. And on top of that, you're not getting a raise, but guess who is? The federal government is getting their 5th raise since COVID happened. So in 4 years, this will be the federal government's 5th raise because they're doing such an amazing job looking after you folks, making sure you guys can feed your family and keep the roof over your head and keep the gas in your vehicles and keep going to work for all those jobs that you managed to keep throughout all this time. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe they're not doing such a good job after all, but they still have voted to give themselves raises. So now a backbencher MP is making, I think they're either making $202,000 right now, and they're getting an $8,100 raise. And Mr. Justin Trudeau, who makes currently over $400,000, he'll be getting a $16,000 raise because they've done such a good job at keeping your family safe and fed and warm and employed. How about that?
Catch me outside. Yeah.
Catch me outside.
Yeah. I mean, I swear to God, they're just daring us to get angry and do something about it. But, moving on. Yeah. So there's that. So how do we put up with all that? Why do we put up with all that? Why aren't we trying to figure a way through this? Maybe Hulu is part of the problem.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, finally a little bit of honesty from Hulu here.
Hello, Earth. I'm Alec Baldwin, TV star. You know, they say TV will rot your brain. That's absurd. TV only softens the brain, like a ripe banana. Take it all the way. We've created Hulu. Hulu beams TV directly to your portable computing devices, giving you more of the cerebral gelatinizing shows you want anytime, anywhere, for free. I only act out because I want your love. Mushy mush. And the best part is there's nothing you can do to stop it. I mean, what are you going to do, turn off your TV and your computer? Once your brains are reduced to a cottage cheese-like mush, we'll scoop them out with a melon bowl or gobble them right on up. Oops. I think I'm drooling a little. Because we're aliens. And that's how we roll. Hulu, an evil plot to destroy the world. Enjoy.
Oh, so much hidden honesty there. Unbelievable. You right down to the lizard in the end, Luann called it. Yeah. So let's see. Senior Canuck. Oh, no, that's Michael. Senior Canuck says, we cannot see other people's posts here. This is on the website. So here's the deal. If you're on Rumble, for our Rumble community, if you want your comments to show up on air like this one, we can't do that from Rumble. So if you want to comment and you want to see our comments up on air, up on the screen with us, then you have to go to our website. See, there you go. Whoever that may be. So that's a little comic relief for you.
Comic relief, but not really, because it's so true.
Yes.
So it's funny, but it's scary all at the same time.
It is. Well, so a little bit of unintended honesty. Here's some intended honesty. Now, I think this was put out in 2020, I believe this was. And it's become a lot more recognizably relevant now. So this is from the World Economic Forum. This was a very hard video to find, by the way. Yeah, this is the hill I die on right there.
Yeah, meat.
Yeah, nope.
An occasional treat? No, it's almost a nightly treat in our household. billion people will be displaced by climate change.
So we're going to do a better job at
welcoming and integrating
refugees. Yeah.
Wow, because we don't do enough for them.
Yeah.
We don't give them enough money and roofs over their head and
global price on
comfort.
carbon.
Yeah, we're going to prepare to go to Mars when we haven't even made it to the moon yet.
Oh, straight up.
Oh, they'll figure out how to make us healthy in space.
That's great.
Once they figure out how to get us there.
Can't make us healthy here.
Right.
Yeah.
Checks and balances. Who's checks and balances?
Did you notice that bit about Western values will be put to the test?
Well, they're testing us, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they're doing their darndest to erase Western values.
So talk about a little bit of predictive programming on that whole thing. And so it started with that card that's where everybody started realizing what the World Economic Forum was. You remember when they put out that tweet, you'll own nothing and be happy. And that went by wildfire. They removed it. I saved the link, fortunately, so you can way back machine it. And subsequently, they got rid of that. That tweet was going to that video that we just played, and finding that video was not easy, I can tell you. So that's where that came from. And that is what put World Economic Forum on the map. The second they said that, there was blatant communism, obviously.
Well, they were on the map, just not with everyday people.
They were sort of on the map, but that's what put them well square in the targets of everybody, and we all started keeping an eye on them. You're right. I'd done a video before that came out, but I
just meant like the global predators knew about the World Economic Forum because it's the economic wing or arm, if you like, of the UN. So they all knew, the Bilderbergers knew, the UN knew, and global leaders and CEOs that all bought into their product knew. It's everybody else that didn't know. But boy, oh boy, in the last 4 years, have they ever become a household name?
Yeah. So there they are on the radar. So thank you very much, whoever put that, the social media guru that put that one out there for the World Economic Forum. Thank you for alerting us. So it's always a misstep, right? And then we started learning more about what they were up to, including Harari. He started getting on the map.
Well, you know what? He was, again, big in the PhD world. Right? You know, he was highly recognized, highly decorated, but we didn't know who he was until the WEF. And then we realized he's kind of Klaus Schwab's right-hand man, for lack of a better name to call him. And man, he is scary. Trudeau's scary, but he's like fluffy scary. You know who he is, but Yuval Harari, that's a whole other level of scary.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I mean, look at all this. People know who he is. Like, yeah, that's right. Well, he's kind of like the devil's physician.
Yes.
And then look at all that. It's like everybody's just there on Harari. We play him all the time. He's like our best buddy now because we get so much traction.
Book, if I understand it correctly, you argue that actually the amazing breakthrough that we are experiencing right now not only will potentially make our life better, but they will create, and I quote you, new classes and new class struggles, just as the Industrial Revolution did. Can you elaborate for us?
Yes, in the Industrial Revolution, we saw the creation of a new class of the urban proletariat, and much of the political and social history of the last 200 years involved what to do with this class and the new problems and opportunities. Now we see the creation of a new massive class of useless people. As computers become better and better in more and more fields, there is a distinct possibility that computers will outperform us in most tasks and will make humans redundant. And then the big political and economic question of the 21st century will be, what do we need humans for? Or at least, what do we need so many humans for?
Do you have an answer in the book?
At present, the best guess we have is keep them happy with drugs and computer games.
Well, we won't even get into how condescending that is. So, we've got a eugenics show coming up because everybody's been off track. So a little spoiler alert for you there. It's really not about depopulation, because depopulation is about killing people for the planet. Eugenics is killing the right people for the planet.
The massive increase, that massive class that he talked about of useless eaters.
So, spoiler alert, eugenics did not die in the 1920s like everybody thinks they did. And so when he's talking about useless people, the general feeling is with eugenics, feeble-mindedness and moral ineptitude. Those are the two things that seem to want to kill off. So people who are right from mentally handicapped to not using critical thought to epilepsy seems to be on their target quite a bit.
Weird.
Which is
Epilepsy,
kind
because
of harsh. Yeah, and then
a lot of times epilepsy is like an injury from medication, from a shot.
Right. Wonder who caused that. So and then the other thing is moral bankruptcy. So people who can't know self-discipline and they don't really have a high ethics and high morals, they seem to be on the target as well. And so these are the people they would like to kill off. They call it social cleansing.
Hygienics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, we've heard of ethnic cleansing. It's the same thing as social cleansing. So feeble-mindedness, and they want to kill that bloodline. And what's more feeble-minded than leading your own child to slaughter to get mutilated so they can't pass on, they can't reproduce. So it's everything that we're seeing today. And if you haven't seen it, watch New Order of the Barbarians, or go to our Patreon. No, not Patreon. Brighteon page. We've got the entire 3-hour audio there, so you can listen to it while you do dishes and go, "Oh, these bastards."
But you discovered when we were looking at Bill 63, Bill C-63, my apologies. And whenever we start digging into a bill, it always brings our eyes onto other bills. And lo and behold, the Wayback Machine, Chris found another bill or legislation that had actually made it through our House of Commons. But what he found was actually the retraction of bill
feeble-mindedness.
Of feeble-mindedness. When was that?
It was in the definition of the criminal code before 1990. So feeble-mindedness used to be on the criminal codes, and then it would talked about a DNA bank. And then under the DNA bank section, they had all of these definitions and some of the things that were tainting the DNA bank, and some of it was incest, obviously, and then others, and then they had feeble-mindedness. So eugenics has never gone away. No. It's just been hidden. So when you hear people talk about depopulation, they're really talking about cleaning the bloodlines, and it makes sense from everything that we've talked about. I mean, we're already doing the show now. I mean, geez, may as well. We're going to do a whole show on it, but we've been talking about how the UN has got, genetic banks, and they've been saving the best of the genetics in plants and animals and environments and creating biomes. So it just makes sense that they're holding on to genetics of people as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway, we'll get into that another time.
And you know what I came across today?
No.
Talking about feeble-mindedness and protecting bloodlines and stuff. Did you know the Rothschilds used to actually have it's kind of a family motto that you only loved within the family. That way the bloodline always stayed pure and clean.
Were the Rothschilds from Arkansas?
No.
No? All right. So we just lost 2 viewers on that comment. So we're going to save the wins to the end here. So we've got some wins for you. Here's one. So in Ontario, man successfully challenges his employer's COVID-19 testing policy, claiming a violation of federal genetic testing labor law, securing a hearing that could establish case law and spark lawsuits. Now, this is interesting because right from the get-go, we had picked that out of the criminal code that you can't discriminate based on genetics. And we always wondered if this would be a viable legal defense, but nobody really ran with it, and this guy did.
But he's running with it because it's also his he works for DHL, which falls under transportation, which falls under federal law. So he is governed under the Canadian Labor Code. And the Canadian Labor Code has in there that you cannot, you can ask for genetic testing, but you cannot demand it, and nor are you entitled to the results if somebody wants to comply. And he, after doing his research, because a lot of us did our research to find out, wait a minute.
We had nothing better to do sitting home alone.
Right?
Yeah.
And he did his research and he saw that there was a problem with the rapid antigen tests, with the sodium benzoate or something like that chemical that was in it. It also says in the insert that it should only be done by a medical professional. And he went, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not a medical professional. And hey, I've seen already cases of people getting injured or the chemicals exploding on them when mixed with water or other chemicals. So he's like, I don't think I'm going to do this because it says this, and under the Canadian Labor Code, I don't have to. And also the PCR test says it is genetic testing. And under the Canadian Labor Code, they cannot require you to genetically test or provide those tests to anybody. That's your own private information. And he fought this. One, he went to his union, because that's what you do when you belong in a union, and you hope that all those union dues you've paid will actually work for you at some point in time. Well, the union, and almost every other union employee out there knows this over the last 4 years, did not arbitrate on behalf of their employees. In fact, most times they took the side of the employer. He is with the union, I believe it's Unifor. I believe that, yes, Unifor. And again, they didn't help him through this arbitration period. They actually tried to go on behalf of the employer. And this man, being smart enough, decided, no, that was not right. And he filed suit against them on his own, unrepresented. You do not need a lawyer to help you through these things. And if your lawyer or your union won't help you or provide you with a union rep or a union lawyer to represent you, you can do it yourself. And that's what this man did. He faced 4 lawyers that were representing his employer, 4, plus their expert witness. But you know what he did? He was smart enough to investigate. He was smart enough to read. He was smart enough to understand his employment contract. He was smart enough to understand the employment law that his contract fell under. And he went and got himself 3 of his own expert witnesses to counter the 1 expert witness that 4 lawyers brought. And guess what? Instead of the arbitrator dismissing the case, which is what the 4 lawyers wanted, they said, nope, there's enough evidence here. We're proceeding. So congratulations. That is a big win. You do not need a lawyer to fight your battles for you. It has cost this man nothing but time, a little bit of elbow grease, and probably some more sore eyes, maybe some headaches at the end of it. But it did not cost him financially. So congratulations for showing to everybody it can be done. And you just need to have a whole lot of courage and tenacity and patience. Congratulations.
Yeah. And he was suspended without pay, but he
fired.
He took a leave of absence because of mental stress, and then went and worked somewhere else. And then they sent in a private investigator after him and proved that he could work. And he's like, "Of course, I've been telling you the whole time I can work. It's just mental. It's not physical." And he's been putting in reports and all that stuff, and they fired him based on that. So and then he still wants his job back with those guys.
He had a good job with good seniority, good pay, good pension, good benefits.
Yeah.
And he liked his job.
Yeah, but a whole lot of douchey bosses, apparently.
Yeah.
So there's that one. And then it's not just us. That was in Alberta, right? DHL?
No, here in Ontario, I believe.
Ontario.
Hamilton.
Okay. Well,
he's a Hamilton man.
Across the seas over in Australia.
Great news. Breaking news. The Queensland Supreme Court has just ruled that the vaccine mandates, the so-called injection mandates, that held back the police or forced them to get injected, the police and the paramedics, are not legal and have no further effect. So more news is to come.
Sure, whatever. Yay for the police. They were the most brutal police in the Commonwealth.
Yes. But the police who fought this were not the brutal police. That's the thing.
Maybe
the
they should have fought within.
The good guys stepped back because they were forced out, and they were probably in the lines with the protesters. But this is a win, and guess what?
What? Sorry, what?
Australia is part of the Commonwealth, which so is Canada. And that means that this is precedent setting, and we can use this case here in Canada will help us because we are also part of the British Commonwealth. So yay, this is precedent setting for us as well. You can, if you are currently in this predicament, you can use this as case law to help your fight.
What happens when all the British royals are dead? Because they're dropping off like flies right now. So are we still part of a Commonwealth? I wonder.
Well, we are, as long as we still have a majesty to report to.
Magical nobodies?
A majesty that gives us royal assent and says, yes, my subjects, you can do this.
Okay, so
but that's another win.
2 for 2. And then finally, right back at home again, we come back across the pond. An arbitrator has ruled that 9 Ontario nurses who were fired because they didn't get 2 COVID-19 vaccinations should be reinstated because their termination was unreasonable. Nurses intent on remaining unvaccinated are a small minority everywhere, but their employee rights may not be ignored, wrote James Hayes in his decision published March 1st. So,
these nurses were from Quinte, which is about a half hour, 45 minutes from where we live. Our jurisdiction, because the Quinte jurisdiction, I think, covers several or many hospitals. So they could actually be from the Northumberland Hospital or the Trenton Hospital or Campbellford Hospital, which is right nearby. But congratulations. See, people are fighting. And these were nurses under a union, and they fought and they won. So congratulations. I know it was a hard, long battle, and I know your families have suffered huge for you guys sticking to your guns, but congratulations on sticking to your guns and battling it out and toughening it out and finding the case law and finding reading the black and white of your contracts, because almost everybody that I helped anyway, and that Edward Embry helped, and that I know a few other people have helped, Chris Weisdorf have helped, we help them fight based on contract law. Because if you were fighting on human rights law, a lot of times you lost. But when you fought on contract law and you used the law against them, almost everybody went back to work. Deanna Contran, she was my very first success story. She was a teacher in, I think, the York Board or North York Board, and we fought using her employment contract. She got her job, she got back pay, she got everything. So it is doable, it is winnable. If you're one of those people that are still in that situation, don't give up. We are seeing the wins. These wins you can use as case law for yourself as well.
Yeah.
Please use them.
Keep your ear to the grindstone. Michael put this up. This is GDP. This is GDP ratio.
Oh, yeah.
Get ready, Michael. Bringing you on. What is this? What is this, Michael? Hello, Michael. Are we reading you? Hi, Michael.
This is the debt to GDP ratio measured back in 2021. So it's a few years old, but I think it's still pretty relevant. And if you look along the bottom right edge there, those smallest countries all seem to be the ones that have been under attack by the US or they're meddling in. You see Russia is only 18%, Afghanistan, Hong Kong, and we're almost right there in the middle. Canada 116, US 133. Even China is in the red, but they're still below 100%. So that's in the positive. Really, that light red color should be more like a light green.
Oof! Look at Japan. How'd they get in so much trouble?
Greece makes sense because Greece has been in the news big time in the last few years. And Sudan. Wow.
Well, has Japan not essentially been occupied by the United States since World War II, to my understanding?
Oh, yeah, probably. And there's not, I think Japan is one of those countries that isn't allowed to grow its own food. And if you're not allowed to grow your own food, that means you are sanctioned to death and have to abide by everybody else. And they can slap you silly as many times as they want. So yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
just
have
like the
negative
guy in
interest
the
rates,
earlier
too.
video.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
No problem.
All right. Well, are you going to be with us on Saturday, Michael?
Yep, it's might be a little wet, but I'll be there.
Great.
A little wet? What does that mean?
100% chance of precipitation.
Uh-oh.
That's so funny because a week ago it said it was supposed to be a beautiful sunny day, plus 9 or 11 degrees. And now that we have 1984 happening in 11 cities across Canada, it's going to rain. And we're bringing our TVs for digital displays to happen.
Right.
We are not doing speeches at BMO Field or at Nathan Phillips Square, but we have 2 big TVs that are going to display the amazing videos that Chris has done. And we're going to have sound. And what are you laughing at? What am I missing?
I'm laughing at this comment.
Hey, isn't that the kid from Superbad?
I have
think
been
he called
called
you McLovin,
McLovin.
Michael.
I have been called McLovin.
I love
and
it.
many people don't know my first name.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. That is too funny.
Yeah, we're right, McLovin.
I'm going, I can't see because our camera that records us sits right on that side of the screen, so I can't see the comments on that side of the screen. That's so funny. Sorry, Michael.
That's funny.
But yeah, so
what?
Michael and Chris have been busy.
I'm pretty sure that was
compiling.
stolen from me. I made that up in high school.
Did you?
Chong. I swear that was me in high school.
Oh gosh.
So good.
Yeah, so Michael and Chris have been busy Chris putting together the video and finding all of their archive stuff, and Michael going through all of his archive stuff. So the video is pretty phenomenal that we hope to play. Hopefully it doesn't rain. I guess we'll have to bring some.
Yeah, it's rain and electronics don't usually mix, so we'll have to figure that out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so where is that? Let's give all the deets
BMO
here.
Fields at 170 Princess Boulevard. I believe we are probably going to set up by the south entrance, because I think north entrance is mostly for those who transit in, but south entrance is for most of the people who drive their cars. So I think that's probably where we're going to set up at BMO Fields. We'll be there from 1 to 2 as people are going into the game. And then we will be tearing down and then heading up to Nathan Phillips Square, where the city of Toronto is celebrating 190-year anniversary of being the city of Toronto, with vendors and music. And I believe if the skating rink is still open, skating, and we will be there too. So if you can't come down from 1 to 2 at BMO Fields, please meet us at Nathan Phillips Square. We'd love to say hi and give you a hug. You can help protect our TVs from being vandalized and help us answer any questions that people have, and possibly hand out these pamphlets that I am still dragging my ass on getting done up.
Yeah, get those done.
I know.
And you covered the other one, Nathan Phillips Square. Did you?
Yeah,
talk about
that's
that?
Nathan Phillips Square. Sorry. We'll be at Nathan Phillips Square definitely by 4:00. Possibly earlier, but we will be there from 4 to 5:30. So come down, give us a shout, give us some love, and help us educate those who don't understand that 1984 is now.
Yeah, so it's getting out of the WHO and getting out of the UN, and then the WEF and all that stuff. So
yeah,
that's correct.
I agree.
You can't tell the weather until you know how many planes are in the sky these days. So, so I think that's all we're doing this weekend. Hey,
that's what we're doing.
That's enough, but
it is enough. If you're in the Barrie area, I'm not sure who's hosting the Barrie one, and in Ottawa, I know Howard is hosting the one in Ottawa, and then of course there's lots going on in BC and Alberta, and I think Saskatchewan as well. So.
Right, you got a druthers party this weekend, Michael?
Nope. Not this weekend.
Oh,
not this weekend.
Was it last weekend?
Well, there's always a party.
Oh, I see. When's Druthers is already out for this month or what?
Yeah, March came out a few days ago. I picked up a
Okay.
couple hundred on the weekend.
Awesome.
Nice. You bringing them down to Nathan Phillips Square to hand out?
Yeah, and our friend Adam here also said he'll be bringing some down.
Ah, perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay.
All right.
Well, I think that's it for us for tonight.
That is it for us. I hope everybody has a great weekend and show up somewhere, do something. And remember, you don't always have to be the loudmouth at a party. You just have to be able to speak some truth at a party.
Okay. On that note, we'll cut it there. Thanks for watching. Are we going to be back next week?
So next week is March break. We know a lot of people do stuff with their kids and they go away. So what we're going to do so that you don't miss anything, but for our new viewers that have enjoyed watching our show, we're going to play Monday and Thursday night. We're going to play 2 of our shows that are really informative. So there'll be 2 repeat shows next week. That way our loyal viewers aren't going to miss anything, but our new viewers will get to catch up on some of the things that we talk about on the show.
Awesome. Okay, everybody. Thanks for watching. We will see you eventually. We'll see you in person in a week from now.
No, on Saturday.
Well, okay. Actually,
we're going to
person,
see you Saturday because you're going to be in Toronto.
Right. Yeah. For the rest of us, we'll see you online a week after next.
Monday.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye, everybody.